It's Larry Cooperman, Director of Business Development for Nightdive Studios.
This is Stephen Kick, Studio Head of Nightdive Studios.
Been a wild year for you and your company. What's it been like this last year after being acquired by Atari? Are you guys finally settled in?
We are. We're settled in. It was really a very smooth transition. I think people may or may not know this, but we'd had a relationship with Wade Rosen that predated the Atari acquisition. So getting to work with Wade on that, who's somebody that we have a lot of confidence in, we have a lot of trust in, so it was a really easy transition.
Yeah, just everything so far has just been great. They've given us a lot of freedom and a lot of resources to go out and do more of what we do best, which is remastering classic games.
Now your System Shock game is finally coming to consoles, so for some bit transparency, why did that take so long? And I mean that in a positive way.
Well, just one of the things that may not be apparent just by the quality of our games is that we have a really small team. And so we lacked the resources really to put all the weight behind making really great console ports. And another thing that we kind of have to do is we got to go back to the previous generation because the game's been in development that long and we had promised those ports, and so we wanted to live up to those promises.
The other thing that people may not be aware of in anticipation of that is that we also wanted to make this truly special for people, so there's additional content that will be coming via a patch to the PC version, but they'll also be incorporated in the console build, so the ability to play either a male or a female hacker is something that we've added in, and we've really done a lot of work addressing concerns that had been brought up, or comments, I should say, about how we could make the ending better. And so that has also been incorporated into the console builds.
You know, you released Dark Forces recently, a beautiful game. Feel free to get in the reads on this question, but what's one of the misconceptions when you do a game like that? Because I think the general public thinks you take the code, press a button, and it pops out a port. But I know it's much more involved than that.
All of the cutscenes, all of the cinematics of the game were redone from the ground up by human artists. Was not an AI generated thing, so there was no button pushing on that. There's a lot of typing into keyboards to make that happen. And we also began from the source code of the original game and imported that into our Kex engine, and that alone is a process. But from that point, we were able to do more with the textures to kind of give it a more modern look and feel while preserving all the elements that made the original game great.
Yeah, on top of that, just the amount of work that our team really puts in, it's not really that apparent because when you're playing it, it's smooth and it works really well, and it's what you remember it being like, and that's really our goal. And so all that work is really under the hood, and it comes through in the smooth controls, the high frame rate, the ability to look up and down and around using mouse look. I mean, that's just something that wasn't there in the original. And it's a tremendous amount of work to do that.
I'll just also add that during that process, we were working really very closely with the teams at Disney and Lucas to make sure that the finished game had that fidelity to the original, to all the things that made the original so exceptional.
Is your studio at that point where people are now approaching you with these big, major, older 90s games, or are you still reaching out to publishers and developers saying you want to remaster a game?
I'd say for the last couple of years, we're getting approached now, which is a nice change of pace.
Right.
So they come to us with these high-profile projects, and it's just a dream come true to be in the position where we can say, yeah, we can do that, and we can do it really well.
But as long as I'm in the industry and as long as I continue to work for Nightdive, we're still going to be out there hunting for some lost classics.
Is there anything that comes across, I know you can't talk about it, is there anything that comes across your desk and you're like, we have to do this, and then when you guys are like, we can't, we're packed to the gills and we don't have the time, or we have to tackle this next year?
Well, we usually find a way to do it anyways.
It's a quotation from an old boss of mine who said, there is no task too difficult to ask someone else to do.
What do you guys think is the biggest misconception from a gamer looking at your studio from the outside?
Again, I think it could be easy to believe that we're a much bigger team than we are, just due to the amount of games that we put out and the quality level that they get developed and released in. And so it's a small group of people that are really passionate about what they do, and that passion really shines through in the final game.
So last year we released System Shock was our major tentpole title. We also did Rise of the Triad limited edition with in partnership with both Apogee and the team over at New Blood. Turok 3 at the end of the year. What am I leaving out?
It's the Ludicrous Edition.
Oh, Ludicrous Edition. I'm sorry. It's early on GDC. Well, but we had another title in there also. That's not a bad year's work for a team of about 40 people.
So many we can't even remember what we did.
And there's so many you can't talk about. That's the problem too. You're filtering like, what can we talk about? Not that, not that. That's the one we did.
That's right. No comment on that one.
Are you guys going to continue to grow and expand and try to take on more projects? Because I mean, I know growth is, you always want growth, but too much growth can be dangerous.
We do not want to dilute our secret sauce, which is the passion that people have for the project. I've said this before, and it's really true that everything that we do at Nightdive is a passion project. And we don't want to lose that. And that means that we have to be pretty careful about how we scale up. One of the things that, back to the original question that we've had that's been really great this past year, is that a lot of the non-game development work that's involved in running a studio, things like HR and payroll and benefits, has been taken off our plate by Atari. So that allows us to focus on making games. But at the same time, we don't want to scale up to mega corporation and lose the passion that we have.
Yeah, one thing that you may have noticed with Dark Forces, which was our latest release, was the first time in our 10-year history that the game came out smoothly across all platforms simultaneously. So you can expect more of that as a result of the Atari acquisition.
Yeah, they've really been helpful with discussions around process and how we do that, and that's really been something that we've needed.
Yeah, we've talked to your studio before about, the System Shock thing was a huge labor of love, and just, a lot of problems and challenges come up, and people get very angry and very vocal on the internet about something if you miss a date, and we get it. You don't want to be that late either, but stuff happens, and I'm so happy to feel like Atari has streamlined that process for you. So it's I don't want to say easier, but I guess less difficult. That's another way of saying it, I guess.
So it's not my quotation, but it's one that's been attributed to various people, but throughout the industry. A delayed game is eventually good. A bad game is bad forever, and that's something that we've been pretty fortunate in avoiding.
How old does a game have to be remastered? Because, just putting it out there, Resident Evil 4 got a remake, but when that was announced, I was kind of like, really? The game's not that old. It doesn't look that bad. Like, is it really that bad? And it was obviously a tremendous game. But, like, in your personal opinions, like, how old does a game have to be remastered or remade?
I think Last of Us was probably the most recent remaster of a more recent game.
Yeah.
It's like they gave it like 3 years, maybe.
Yeah.
I'd like to at least give it 10.
A generation.
Yeah, like 10, or I mean, in the case of Dark Forces, it's been 30. So whatever needs it.
We haven't finished covering all the 90s yet, but we're starting to look at some titles from the early 2000s. A couple of things that our fans should be aware of on that. There's more complexity. There's certainly more. As games have transitioned from 2D to 3D, the work that's needed to go into the remastering also increases.
Do you guys have any dream IPs you want to work with?
I mean, it's No One Lives Forever is the obvious one, but I guess if I had to choose kind of like an oddball one, I'd go with Eternal Darkness.
No One Lives Forever was going to be my answer as well. And going through the original period of boomer shooters, I think that's really the sweet spot for us.
Yeah, we really want to do Redneck Rampage.
So, Steven, you're a huge Transformers guy, and Hasbro's has been having some tough times, but like, boy, a really good Transformers game with a really big mega fan would certainly do them well right now, don't you think?
Oh yeah, absolutely. War for Cybertron, Fall for Cybertron, a Nightdive Transformers game. It's all on the table.
Somebody give this man a Transformers game. In the meantime, where can people go to find out more about your future projects and everything else you're doing?
We're pretty active on social media. Please click follow and subscribe. I can't say that with a straight face, but we're out there in the press, and probably the best place that you can go to find out all the dirt about Nightdive Studios is Shacknews.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if you follow me on Twitter, I'll probably say something stupid and leak some confident information, so...